inflation. So sometimes things get cheaper, sometimes things stay the same price, and sometimes things increase in price. So what they're doing is they're taking these 60,000 different goods and services all over the country, and they're comparing those prices every single month. And then every single month, they'll take all those price changes, add them all together, divide by 60. And if your answer is 1.2%, then that's your rate of inflation, 1.2%, which is right about where we are right now. It's about 1.2% inflation.
Did you mean divide by 60,000?
Correct. Yes. Did I say 60? I meant 60,000.
Okay, just checking. Also, those 60,000 goods and services, did they pick them at random?
They're kind of picked at random, but they're it's not really random because it's going to be the same thing every month. And what they attempt to do is $60,000 that best represents consumer purchases.
Oh,
so you'll have baby formulas in there, even though you specifically as an individual might not buy baby formula. I don't buy baby formula, mainly because I don't have any kids, and that would be weird if I did. Bought baby formula when I had kids. So, baby formula, and then you've got cat food, and you've got cereal, and you've got carpet cleaning services, and you've got plumbing services, and you've got gasoline, and you've got all these different things. Basically, it's a wide variation of everything you could buy. A good idea would be to go and pick one of every type of product in the supermarket. So go in the Safeway and you'll grab, 1 box of instant rice and 1 pound of apples and whatever else you buy at the supermarket, and put them all together. And that gives you an average, and that tells you what your inflation rate is.
So it doesn't look like it's going to get passed, but if minimum wage went up to 15, do you think we would see a big inflation?
In Arizona, no. Because look at, or I should say, at least in northern Arizona, our wages now are pretty close to 15. We've got minimum wage, right. I think 13 or 13.50. So that's not a huge thing. Where
your minimum wage this year actually is 15.
Where you would see a big change would be places like Kentucky and West Virginia, where they're currently still at the federal $7.25 minimum wage, which now means you're going to have a $7.75 increase for anybody earning minimum wage. There you'd see a big difference. And it could be good, could be bad, depending on what happens. Northern Arizona, in Flagstaff and in Sedona, although our minimum wages is as high, we have a huge labor shortage now. So our wages down here in Sedona are actually higher than wages in Flagstaff. Where my wife works, she works at the biggest resort down here, Enchantment Resort, and they're paying entry level. There are 2 entry level positions, which are housekeeping and dishwashing. They're paying $17 to $18 an hour, and that's just because there are so few people in town who are of working age and willing to work, looking for a job, that they have to do that to create an incentive just to get people to work there. So that's why, minimum wage change wouldn't impact us much. It would impact Flagstaff a little bit because it would increase that minimum. But Flagstaff already has a plan in place to go up to $15 an hour. I think it's in 2 or 3 years from now. It's going to hit 15. I think it's 2 years from now. It's going to hit 15. It's those states that have very low wages and very low cost of living that things will get thrown off.
But then do you think like eventually like goods and stuff that comes from those states would also increase? And like, do you think inflation would spread from those states?
Yeah, you have
eventually.
Yeah, and you don't need to know this concept. You have what's called cost push inflation, which is inflation caused by an increase in production prices. So generally what we see is when oil increases in price, that tends to push those prices up because oil is used for gas, and gas gets everything from point A to point B. So that means transportation costs go up. And when transportation costs go up, everything gets impacted. So that's usually what it is. Labor comes right behind that. when labor prices get driven up, you tend to see inflationary pressures or inflation increase.
Cool.
So yeah, it could very well cause inflation. And like I said, we're going to come back to this because the answer is always maybe, because you have a lot of other forces playing there of what could drive inflation. And then we have a lot of tools to help fight inflation. So yeah, the answer is always maybe, but if left completely to do its own thing, yeah, higher wages will lead to higher prices. All right, so the two terms that you want to understand with this, I'm going to give you some good examples. Nominal prices and real prices. Nominal price is the actual price paid in a historic year. So if you ever get that lecture from a grandparent or great-grandparent, like, oh, I remember when milk was only $0.10 a gallon. Well, they're telling you the nominal price. That's how much they paid back in 1930 when they bought milk. Or, you know, the more common one is, I don't understand why college kids are suffering so much. When I went to college, it was only $600 a year. Well, yeah, you went to college back in the 1950s when it was $600 a year and when minimum wage was $2.75 an hour. So that's a nominal price. You never want to use nominal prices when you're talking about historics because they don't really tell you anything. So nominal prices are, here we go, bad. Real prices are what you want to use. These are prices that have been adjusted for inflation. So yes, you paid $0.10 for milk in 1930. You paid $600 a year for college in 1950. Cool. Well, let's apply the rate of inflation every year, the growth rate every single year from the year you were talking about to now. Now we can compare things. That's what real prices are. And I'm going to give you a good idea of